So today we are concluding our month-long series of Weathering the Storm. For the last 3 Sundays, we've looked at ways that we can try to move through all the various storms that can come into our lives. We've spent some time with self-care. We've spent some time with the divine and healing power of love. And we also spent some time on how to let go of concerns in the midst of change. And so today, our final installment of the series is going to focus on routine and ritual, using routines and rituals to weather and to move beyond the storms that come our way. We're going to do this by spending some time with each one because there is a difference between the two. And then we'll bring them together to see how they work together to optimize our life experiences. And so let's go ahead and start with routines. The first thing I want to acknowledge is that this word routine itself can sometimes just be a turnoff for some people. It can bring up thoughts of days with no room for fun, days that are too restrictive or too organized or void of spontaneity. And all of that made a whole lot of sense to me. But the more I was reading about routines, I learned that they can actually serve to increase those very things that some may be concerned about losing. And so what is a routine? One definition I saw offered that routines are a series of habits you carry out on a regular basis. And with time, these habits require less thought and less planning. So we all likely have these kinds of habits in our lives. Maybe we have an exercise routine or a start the day or end the day kind of routine. Maybe we have a routine for how we even run our weekly errands and so on and so forth. But whatever kind we have, and even if you're someone who might not like or have a lot of routines in your life, I think it's still important and beneficial to know how many benefits there are from having routine. And we can look at this from like the 10,000-foot view, and then we can also look at it at a level where there's a bit more detail. So from that macro level, the benefits of routine exist in two main areas. And the first is that they help to prevent what is referred to as decision fatigue. And the second is that they can help reduce our cognitive load. Now, decision fatigue is what prevents us, makes it difficult for us to make good decisions. And studies have shown that this often happens because as a day unfolds and we are moving through it, doing all that's ours to do, our brains begin to tire. And therefore, we are less capable of making the best decisions throughout the entire day. My former boss, Patricia, back at Unity in Overland Park, Kansas, she recognized that about herself. And she developed a very specific routine for one aspect of her life. And that is that every month, on the day of our board meetings, which were held in the evening hours, she would leave the office at 3:30 and she would go home. And she would take time to just renew. She would tell us that she's one of those people that can take one of those like 20-minute power naps and just have an incredible impact on her energy. So sometimes she would do that, or just sit in the quiet and just rest her mind, rest her body, even rest her spirit. And when she got back to the office at 5 o'clock, she was fully present to the board. And she maintained that routine for all 9 years that she served at that church. And she didn't have to ponder and consider or decide if she should or shouldn't step away from the office on the day of a board meeting from one month to the next. Her making it a habit made the decision for her. And that's where the benefit lies. See, routines allow for many daily decisions to be made for you, thus saving your brain power to last throughout the entire day. Now, cognitive load, that refers to the mental effort required to complete a given process. How long, how hard do I have to think about something that is mine to do? So here again, if we form routines that become habits and we repeat them daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it might be, we accomplish things, we complete our tasks without having to think so much about them. And what that does is free up more space in our minds. And what can we do with that? Well, we can learn new things. Or we have the ability to give more time and focus to those things that might be a bit more challenging, a bit more difficult to do. Now, I related to this one as it pertains to how different my Sunday mornings became when we moved away from the campus into this online platform setting. See, Sunday mornings, they have always been the time I want the least amount of mental energy being expended. I want the least amount of thinking, let alone hard thinking and attention to details being processed in my mind. And I say that in the context of wanting to be as connected and grounded in spirit and spirit in me, my spiritual nature, in moving through the facilitation of our Sunday services and offering these Sunday lessons. I don't want details clogging up my head and keeping me there, blocking the ease of the flow of spirit speaking through me. But being online, what has that done? Well, now I have to let you in to the service. I never had to let you into the sanctuary back at the campus. I have to be mindful of when to mute you or ask you to unmute yourselves throughout the service. Never had to do that at the church. Now I'm remembering when to turn the video recording on and off. You see, so it became necessary for me to create a better balance between a lot of details now. Reading a lot of notes and cues on paper that are around me, making sure I'm clicking on the right spots of my computer screen while at the same time, very often I'm also speaking to you. A balance between that and remaining aware and connected and grounded in spirit. So I soon figured out that I needed to create some new routines. So now I've been starting my Sunday day earlier than before so that I'm ready to welcome you into the session. I figure out what I'm going to wear the night before. It's small, but it's one less thing that I have to think about on a Sunday morning. I moved my final review of my lesson from Sunday morning to late in the afternoon on Saturday afternoons. And so basically all I did was make room for some of these new details so that they would not overwhelm me and keep me in my head more than I wanted to be, and be able to manage them without sacrificing that sacred nature from which I wanted to show up. So those are the two kind of macro level benefits. So now we're going to drill down a little bit more and get into some more of the detail around some specific types of routines. And as we do, I think you'll be able to see the positive impact that can be experienced in our physical well-being, our mental, emotional well-being, even our spiritual health. And all of these things have really been at the forefront in heightened ways as the pandemic has unfolded. So the first thing we can look forward to when making some aspect of routine a regular part of our lives is that we will get more things done in less time. I mean, we all can have days that are very full, lots to do, lots to get done. And setting those tasks up with some sense of a schedule, maybe as simple as putting them into order that streamlines the process with which you will do them. Say you got a lot of errands to run. If you put that into a routine to where it makes sense as to how you do them, instead of finding yourself driving in circles or crisscrossing and backtracking throughout the day, you're setting yourself up to get everything successfully done and go home at the end of the day to celebrate, as opposed to finding yourself having to push some things off to another date and point in time and going home feeling a bit more frustrated. And speaking of frustration, another benefit of routines is the reduction of stress, the reduction of anxiety. I know when I have had days when I just seem to bounce from one thing to the other and nothing's getting done. And I can feel my stress level rising, because for me, that kind of experience is chaos in my life. And this usually happens when I have let go of routine to some degree, such as organizing my desk before I close down for the end of the day, or putting my workload in some semblance of order. Or in all honesty, there's just been some days when prayer has not made it to my list of priorities. So routine helps to eliminate the stress and replace it more with a sense of peace. This next one was interesting because it does speak to the idea that some of us may have that routines can be, too strict or take away our freedom or our free time. And it's actually been found that routines serve the exact opposite purpose. See, as we accomplish more in less time, what we have is the ability to make free time a priority. And the blocks of time that we can allocate to free time, well, that's where the spontaneity exists. That's when we can do whatever we feel like doing. We can do the things we love. We can do the things that feed our passions. And so often we can categorize those things as being what we'll do if there's time, or we'll do those things after everything else gets done. So routine can actually help us keep our free time on the list. Routines will break our bad habits. And we don't even have to think about what those bad habits are. We don't have to make a list of them and check them off. We don't have to give them any energy whatsoever. And the thought here is that the more we focus on the positive things that we want to do, the things that will bring positive habits into our lives, when we put our minds on creating those things, all those other things that didn't serve us all so well just naturally begin to fade away. And the last more specific benefit to offer today from the standpoint of using a routine is that the smoother our days go, the smoother our nighttime hours of sleep will go as well. And this happens because the habits that we form during our days, they begin to spill over into creating habits as we bring our days to a close and move into our times of rest. That rhythm of consistency that we create with our daytime habits, it automatically begins to just speak to our bodies, and it puts them into a rhythm and into a groove of falling asleep and staying asleep much more easily. In our meditation service earlier, Yvette spoke of Thich Nhat Hanh and his processes of routines, and another master, the Dalai Lama, was the same way. He was once asked for the secret to happiness, and his response was just one word. He said, it's routines. So with the benefits of routines that we've talked about, and knowing that they do not have to be confining or restrictive in any way, and now the chance that they can generate and bring happiness, what are some areas of life that you can consider setting them up for yourselves? Well, we go back to week 1. How about self-care? Our theme to open the series, consider the food you eat, or consider the exercise that you do. Choose healthy foods more consistently. The more you do that, the less appealing, the more unhealthy choices will become. Eat your meals at the same time every day. Sometimes they said even just doing your grocery shopping on the same day at the same time helps you get into the routine of choosing foods that will be for your greater benefit. And your exercise, your routine could be at a particular time of day that you do it. So if you want to run or walk or do yoga, maybe take a class of some kind, do it at the same time on the days you choose to do it. Or if you're not wanting to get stuck on a certain time of, o'clock on the thing, then you can just say in more general routine, I'm going to do this as soon as I'm done with work. For me, I set alarms on my fitness tracker. My routine is to walk at least 10,000 steps every day. And so I program my tracker. I start it from 9 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And in each of the 10 hours that are in that span, it will vibrate for me at the same time, a quarter before each hour, as a reminder for me to get up and walk. And it has grown into a routine that is a habit I've kept now for almost a year. And the benefits that has brought, has just been, many-fold for me. Another area that you can make a priority in your life as far as a habit forming process is your personal relationships. Get into a routine of calling friends or family more regularly. Or maybe choose one person each week to send a special card to, or a note, or an extended email, letting them know that they're on your mind and why they're on your mind. In the spirit of happiness, create a recurring time for a happy hour. And it can, but it doesn't have to have anything to do with alcohol. What would make you happy? So much so that you would want it to become a habitual routine. Maybe a monthly night out with your girlfriends or your buddies, a dinner, even on Zoom, maybe with family or friends that don't live, in this area. Attending a book club of some kind, or even in your own home where you don't live alone. Setting a block of time aside every day. It could be 10 minutes, but 10 minutes every single day to check in with your spouse, your partner, your roommate. Talk, listen, truly share about your day with one another. There's so many ways that you can create routines, so many simple things in order to increase your productivity, improve your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual well-being, ignite or reignite your creativity, feed your passion, develop your purpose. All of those things can certainly help you weather the storms of life. And so this brings us to routine's companion, which is ritual. Now, rituals deepen all that we've shared about routines, because rituals are routines to which we have attached a very specific meaning. And I think this deeper meaning aspect of rituals is why they're so important in ceremonies in churches and in other houses of worship, why they are done with consistency relative to their frequency, whether it's daily, weekly, seasonally, annually. We want to access that deeper meaning of spirit. We want to access that deeper meaning of what our spiritual natures are, deeper meaning of our lives. But I don't see ritual as being present only in religious settings or spiritual beliefs, because someone that has no religious beliefs whatsoever can still have a very deep longing for a deeper meaning in life, a deeper understanding about a particular philosophy of life that they would like to follow. And I see those searches and those practices as just as sacred as any other. And this idea of a deeper meaning, it can be applied to so many different areas in our lives. I was reading just one article where that noted a whole slew of them. It said that rituals create a space for us to focus on what's most important to us, to make commitments, to embrace beliefs, to forgive, to celebrate accomplishments, to honor community, to show appreciation. So it seems to me that we, not just you and I here today, but we as a people, we participate in rituals all the time. I mean, just taking those 7 areas that I just delineated there, focusing on what's important to us. Well, there's the ritual of New Year's resolutions, making commitments. How many weddings have we all been to? Embracing beliefs. We just had an announcement earlier about our membership pathway. People join a spiritual community or a humanist society. Forgiveness, forgiving. That was a huge part of my life as a Catholic with the sacrament of confession. Celebrating accomplishments, graduation ceremonies, honoring community. We're doing that today as we have our annual outreach program for our food pantries. Showing appreciation in another month, maybe a month and a half, I think, we're going to have our annual Volunteer Appreciation Day. And all of these could be experienced as just ho-hum events or going through the motions because someone dragged us to them, but they become meaningful. They take us more deeply into our own lives when we look at the way that they can benefit our lives and deepen our experiences of it. See, rituals, they do bring us to that present moment. And when we're in the present moment, we are very aware of what is most important to us. It is the only thing that is on our mind in the present moment. I remember growing up and even into my adult years when I was still living in my parents' home, watching my mom and dad and their ritual of hello and goodbye kisses. I mean, before my dad walked out the door to go to work every morning, he would kiss my mom, and it was the first thing he would do when he returned home later that evening. And in that moment, it was so clear that to each of them, the other was the most important person in their lives. And that ritual was something that's continued to strengthen that bond over the decades that they were married. Ritual can also be seen as an action that leads to action steps. So let's say you have a ritual of setting an intention for your day, at least one intention for your day when you wake up. And let's say that intention is to express kindness. Well, the chances are you are going to take steps throughout your day in order to bring it into manifestation. You are going to, express acts of kindness to others. Rituals also take on a deeper meaning when they are done in community. The power of witness is just so significant. For example, you just think about our times when we have our membership blessings. Someone becomes a member of the church. Whoever is there on that particular Sunday, we are their witnesses. We're serving as validators of who they are, the decision they have made, the commitment they're making, who they want to be. And I believe that these are moments that they can also remember and call upon often to help them to deepen their connections to the church, to us, and to all they want to be even more deeply. It is the ritual that encourages all of us to continue to go forward, to continue to show up and take the steps on our individual spiritual paths. And lastly, rituals take on deeper meaning because they remind us to appreciate and to do it mindfully as well. I think we all know that gratitude is contagious. It's also, I like to call it a magic multiplier, in that it in terms of how it can improve our outlook, broaden our perspectives, how it can energize us to create more goodness in the world, for more gratitude to be shared. And it can also give us a higher tolerance and a greater patience for the hard and more difficult times. Weathering the storm. Weathering the storm. We've all been weathering the storm that is the pandemic. And we've been doing it together while apart. And I know that there have also been many personal, individual storms that have come into many lives as well. So when it comes to what's been offered today, when it comes to the overall intention of the series set forth from the very beginning, I really don't know in any great detail where it has landed for you. I mean, you're all uniquely experiencing it in your own ways. But if you are in a place of fatigue with the storms brought on by the last year, I get it. I do get it. And at the same time, I want to remind you of some things that I have noticed, what I have witnessed in you over this last year. For example, resiliency. So many times, joy being brought forth and offered in the midst of the storms. Self-sufficiency. Some of you have been cutting your own hair, prioritizing your health. I can't count how many of you have told me directly or just shared in general conversation your desire and your actions, getting outside, letting those natural elements speak to you, bring you their healing power. Learning new skills. Need I say anything more than the word Zoom? And emphasizing relationships over what might be considered superficialities. There's been a couple of times when a couple of you have shown up in your pajamas, and I took that to mean that connecting with everybody else was so much more important to you than what style of time of day of clothes you were wearing. Now, I would not know any of that about you if you had not shown up, if you had not been here over the last year. So I offer them to you today so that you can keep them in the forefront of your mind during those times when your self-care might get stalled, or when the wounds of your heart feel like they're never going to heal, or you have more questions than answers as life challenges bring new changes, or when the thought of creating any kind of routine or ritual just feels far too taxing. And I also offer them to you today as a way of saying thank you for showing up, for keeping intact your Sunday routine of coming to church, for transforming those routines into ritual through the way that you have supported me, supported each other in our efforts to go deeper into God, deeper into life, deeper into the meanings that it holds for us, all the while weathering what may have been the most challenging storm that we will see in our lifetimes. God bless you.